I've seen you out there shining like the kings and queens you are, from the plains of the Isle of Dorn, down into the depths of the ringing deeps. And how beautifully and gloriously did you shine, brothers and sisters, under the light of Beladar, in one of the coolest zones in all of World of Warcraft. And did I not bear witness as you brought light and flame down upon all these scary spiders and shit? Oh my god, this zone. Remember when I said I was hoping it would be like Suramar? Well, it's not like Suramar. This whole area needs to get hit with some holy napalm. Oh, jeez. Creepy Town's gotta go. And as a reward for your illuminated service to the Alliance, the light shall bestow upon you, great paladins, that most holy and sacred of artifacts. A new transmog. And when they see you with their jealous eyes, standing there in your glorious drip, they shall be reminded, not of protection or healing or light. No, they shall be reminded of judgment. And that anyone who screws with paladins gets the hammer. You can know that. And here it comes hot off the grill, the Tier 2 Judgment Set update, and it is glorious. The only thing I would change is I would change the blue eyes to holy light instead of blue. That's it. Everything else, perfection. Mwah! Absolutely gorgeous, as we always are. I love the little things hanging off the belt. You know, I'm always looking for a place to stash my Librum, and having some things that hold on to it makes it real nice so it doesn't fall out. And I actually think there's some other sets that are getting reworked, but who gives a shit? The Paladin one is all that matters, and look how glorious we're going to look. The 20th anniversary update has been announced, and it comes with some crazy changes and addition of a whole bunch of new content, and I'm really excited about it. I think this stuff sounds amazing, and we'll just take a quick peek at it here. The ugliest race in all of World of Warcraft, and you know who I'm talking about. Well, they get to be a whole bunch of new classes now. And they also get an ability that makes it so they don't have to stay in ugly form as much, which is kind of hilarious. When you get an ability that gets you out of the most hideous form and ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. If you can't even play one of those horrific lizards and the way they walk with their big, just the goofiest, ugliest model in all of gaming, now you can be a whole bunch of new classes for those of you that can even tolerate. When it comes to classes, we'll just start from the top. The Death Grips look like they're getting some changes. The Demon Hunters look like they're hardly getting anything at all, which they'll be happy about so they can keep playing on their Xbox controllers. The Druids are getting a little bit here, but then look at all the changes for the Botkins. If you know anything about Balanced Druids, it is the class of bots. And so if you love playing a Balanced Druid, just know that you and botters have a lot in common. So the Botkins are getting a lot of changes, and I noticed one right here is that Starfall is now a talent, and the botters will be very happy about that because now you can start that bot right there at level 15 like they like to do. Evokers, who cares, because I can barely look at them. The only thing that ever matters when it comes to hunters is that they can run around in the open world with their 55 pets and solo things, and they can do their entire rotation while jumping around. That's what the whole appeal of hunter is. When you look at the hunters, you see like it's 11% of the population, 99% of those are Beast Mastery hunters. Well, 90% of them are Beastmaster, and then 8% of them are marksmanship, and 2% of them are survival hunters because they ruin survival by making it a melee class. And it's never recovered. Survival used to be one of the most popular specs in the game, and it has never recovered from the horrible decision to turn it into melee. But for the 6 people left playing it, I hope it's good. Mages, just please remember to put out your table. Mistweaver Monk's getting a bunch of new abilities and ability updates, some new talents it looks like. But let's be honest, most of the community moved on from Monk after Mop. And now that we've gone through the lessers, we arrive at the greater. Our beloved Paladin getting a ton of awesome new talents and updates. There's some really good stuff in here, some really amazing stuff. So let's just start from the top. I've seen some frustration on the forums where a lot of people are, I think, a little perturbed that all of these changes are on the PTR 4 days before season 1 starts. They're like, this stuff should have been handled in beta. But I will say that I'm actually happy that we're in a place with retail where when there are problems, they get addressed. And I'm actually for development happening during an expansion. If you'll remember in expansions past, there were very clear and defined problems with classes and specializations that they just left for the whole expansion. I don't think that's a better option. So if we're going to have to pick between setting and letting classes run for an entire expansion with all their problems, or letting the Blizzard developers get under the hood and tweak stuff during the expansion, I'll take the latter. Because I like these updates, and some of these are very, very awesome. So on to the changes then. First, new talent, Holy Ritual. When you cast a blessing spell on someone, they get healed both when you put it on them and when the blessing ends. So when we're talking about blessings, of course, we've got our Blessing of Seasons buff that we can put out. So when you put it on someone, they'll be healed. And after 30 seconds, when it goes off, they'll be healed again. Also, remember another blessing we have, good old Bop. So this adds a little more power to Bop if it applies, and I don't know if it will, but I assume it says blessings. Blessing of Protection would fall under a blessing. So if Bop gets a heal added to it, both when you put it on and when it comes off, or when it's purged off, that is actually a really, really nice update, especially in PvP. But of course, any extra healing helps in PvE as well. Adding a little healing to blessings is a nice touch. New talent, Worthy Sacrifice. This is an auto blessing of sacrifice. So anytime one of your allies within 40 yards drops below 35%, it's going to shoot out your Blessing of Sacrifice. You'll remember Blessing of Sacrifice, a 30% damage reduction that you put on someone, but you take 100% of the damage you reduce. Good for getting out of CC, of course, because if you're taking damage and you get polyed, it'll pop you out of it. It got a huge cooldown increase in War Within. It used to be a 1 minute cooldown. Now it's a 1.8 minute cooldown. This is going to be really great for new Paladins, where you're already kind of overwhelmed with the amount of cooldowns and when to use them. You can just pick this talent, and then at least you're going to get some value out of your Blessing of Sacrifice. I think other than that, most people will probably pass on this, most certainly in PvP, but it's a cool ability. Now get ready, family, because here comes Pony. And you know how much I love our glorious, shiny, and amazing Pony. And he's getting some nice updates. Look right here with Steed of Liberty. Divine Steed now also grants 3 seconds of freedom. With the amount of micro CC going out and just everybody having slows and snares and just all types of shit everywhere now, you often had to pair your Divine Steed with your freedom to get use out of it. Well, now you get 3 seconds of freedom at the start of that pony to get you up and out of trouble without having to blow your 30-second freedom cooldown. This is an outstanding change. The only problem is I think a lot of us who've been playing Paladin for a long time are so used to hitting freedom and pony together that we're probably going to overlap this until we get used to it. But this is going to be a must-have in PvP and really has a lot of uses in PvE as well. Next talent, Eye for an Eye, is very thematic for Paladins. I really like this one. It's basically Thorns damage. Anytime you pop your Ardent Defender as a protection Paladin or your Divine Protection or Divine Shield, anyone that hits you while you have these cooldowns up is going to take damage. Thorns damage, basically, or holy damage that's Thorns damage. However you want to think about it. I don't know that this will be as great on Holy and Ret, but it's going to be amazing on Protection. New talent, Stoicism. This is the Orc Racial Hardiness. 20% reduction in stun effects. It gets knocked down to 10% in PvP, which kind of sucks. If it was 20% in PvP, it would be a mandatory PvP talent. I don't know, at 10%? I don't know. Wrench Evil. This is your turn evil's cast time is reduced by 100%. If you'll remember, Turn Evil is a fear you can put on undead, demons, and shit like that. Number one use for this ability is in Solo Shuffle and Arena. When a Warlock summons their pets, you can fear them and incapacitate them for a season to neutralize some of their damage. The 100% reduction in cast time, you can see it's a 1.3 second cast. So 100% reduction isn't huge, but it does remove that risk of getting interrupted and makes it so that you can instantly apply that as soon as the Warlock pops his cooldowns. That's kind of nice, and it has its use, but you'll pretty much, I think, just pick that into locks. And speaking of using it against Warlocks, look here, Stand Against Evil. Turn Evil now affects 5 additional nearby enemies. This will be interesting to see how this interacts in PvP, and if this is kind of a nice counter to Warlocks, which, in my opinion, they could use a counter or two. What I'm really enjoying about a lot of these talent changes, I know a lot of PvE players will roll their eyes, but some of these changes are outstanding for PvP, and I really feel like Holy Pally needed to be brought up to the tier that a lot of other classes are in PvP. I mean, we just kind of had a lot of meh abilities that haven't kept up with modern WoW so well. And so they've added some nice touches here to some of our abilities without adding a lot of bloat. And sticking with that theme of really stuff that's going to help out a lot in PvP, Righteous Protection. So we talked about Blessing of Sacrifice up here, that 30% damage reduction. Well, now when you put it out, it removes and prevents all poison and disease. And you got to think the fact that it removes and prevents, because it lasts 12 seconds. Your DPS or some other healer in a battleground or something gets pulled into a DK grip storm and assassination rogues and all types of poisons going out. Well, for 12 seconds, none of that could be put on them. That's incredible. And in PvE, I mean, poisons and diseases, there's going to be boss fights where if there's a nasty poison a boss puts out or a disease or something, you can take that right off and prevent it from reapplying for 12 seconds. Is incredible. So this is going to have very strong implications and really add some oomph to the Blessing of Sacrifice cooldown. New talent, Light's Countenance. When it comes to Blinding Light, a 15-second reduction doesn't really mean anything. It's a 1.5-minute cooldown. But look over here at Repentance. Look at that cooldown. Now take 15 seconds off of it. Yeah, we're going to be throwing these out left and right. So beware, you dirty, hoardy fornicators. The day of repentance will soon be upon thee. Sacred Strength, Holy Power spending abilities are 2% more effective. Choice Node with Divine Purpose. This would have to be an amazing talent to replace Divine Purpose. Getting a free proc has saved me so many times. This would have to be a huge, huge upgrade to replace Divine Purpose. So I just don't know. We'll see, but it would have to be amazing to replace Divine Purpose. Divine Purpose is awesome. It creates some great flow to the spec when you get a free proc, and it creates a lot of fun. It makes it really dynamic and how you're going to use that proc. So I don't know about this one, but they're going to give Divine Purpose a choice node. And here we go back to Pony. Yeah. Divine Spurs, 20% reduction on Divine Steed's cooldown, but its duration is reduced by 40%. You're going to get it more often, but it's not going to last as long. And when you couple it with the 3 seconds of freedom, I actually think this is better overall because you're going to get to use it more often, which is really the important thing. The last 3 or 4 seconds of Pony really isn't the key part of it, right? I mean, it's nice to have the distance, but the real use of Pony is usually to get away. That's the number one reason why we hop on our Divine Steed. We're either closing with or running from problems. This gives you a more consistent Pony and a much more useful Pony where you don't have to pair it with your other cooldowns to make it functional. Divine Spurs, very welcome, and I think these are some nice updates to Pony. I love Adjust Reward because if you know anything, you'll know both in PvE and PvP how powerful Cleanse is. Cleanse is one of the most powerful abilities in the game, and now when you do it, they are healed. I'm hoping that there's a cool interaction here with this PvP talent, Cleanse the Weak, where when you cleanse one ally, it removes the same debuff off another ally within 40 yards. I hope both of them get the heal. That would be awesome. And I'm assuming that's how it's going to work. That would be fantastic, especially in solo shuffle, battleground, I mean, any type of PvP, but especially in solo shuffle. That's a double heal. That's amazing. And of course, in PvE, when you go to cleanse someone, they've usually lost a little life. How much this heals for is going to be interesting. Is it like a flash of light? We'll see how it works. But that's a very nice addition. Again, adding something to an ability you already have is a great way to update abilities. And you just see a lot of that throughout here. And I think it's just brilliant. And a little something for the miracle. Imperial Ward, whenever you put lay on hands on someone, they're going to get hit with 100% increased armor for 30 seconds. And now, lay on hands with this new talent will ignore healing reduction effects. Unreal how powerful that's going to be in PvP. I've always had a love-hate relationship with lay on hands because thematically, it's one of the greatest healer spells in all of World of Warcraft, right? What do you want to do as a healer? You want to take someone from low health that's in a nasty situation and you want to blow them up with healing and fill up their health bar. No ability in the game does that better than lay on hands. I call it the miracle. You see your buddy in PvP, he's about to die, and then boom, there it is. Everything's fine. I got you. Amazing ability. However, you see that 7-minute cooldown. And for an ability on 7-minute cooldown, anytime someone had a mortal strike effect or a wounding poison, and of course, the mother of all problems for all healers in PvP, dampening. Now, I was hoping that this would apply to dampening, and I kind of made that comment in a World of PvP subreddit, but I was corrected by the community and they said that it rarely ever applies to dampening. They've done that a few times and they've always reversed it. So I appreciate the education from the community. So it's probably not going to work with dampening, even though it probably should for a 7-minute cooldown. Now, when you go to hit that beautiful lay on hands, boom, and you go to fill up that ally or yourself or whoever, it doesn't matter what healing reduction. The other problem was you'd fill up someone's health bar, but then with the amount of damage going out, they'd go right back down to 0. With that 100% armor increase, hopefully that's going to help with that problem a little bit. So this is a beautiful addition to lay on hands. I mean, just absolutely outstanding and really makes the ability feel like the miracle it should be. Here's a great thematic one, especially for the War Within, talking about bearing light and being a light bearer and spreading light and all that crap. 10% of healing done to you from other sources heals up to 4 nearby allies. 10% is actually quite a bit. And if you think about this as a prot paladin or a ret paladin, but specifically a prot paladin where you're getting healed quite a bit, that's an incredible ability, I think, especially for prot paladins. And that, I mean, I bet this gets nerfed. I'm going to guess this gets nerfed down to like 5% at some point. 8, I don't know. They'll start with 8, then 6, then 4, then back up to 5. Selfless healer, flash of light, holy light, 30% more effective, and 40% of the healing done also heals you. It's like a permanent beacon. Oh, this is insane, both in PvE and most certainly PvP. New talent, Inspired Guard, Ardent Defender, the Prot Pally, 30% damage reduction, and Divine Protection, the Holy Pally and Retribution, 30% damage reduction. Increase healing you take for 15%. Adds a little oomph to that defensive. If your healer's trying to get you up, you're going to make it easier on them to get you up. Holy Reprieve doesn't sound like much, but 10% off forbearance is actually going to be pretty amazing. You'd be shocked how many times I've been just desperately wanting to bop someone, but they're 5, 4, 3 seconds out from me being able to bop them. I don't see this really having a ton of use in PvE or that this will get picked, but in PvP, again, a lot of these talents really bringing up our PvP game. I could see this being pretty beneficial, especially in something like Solo Shuffle. This is one of the greatest changes coming in Light's Revocation. The first part of it, when you pop Bubble, for each effect removed, you get 10% of your health back. But it caps at 30%. So the first 3 effects you remove give you up to 30% of your maximum health back. The second part of it is a long overdue miracle where now if you have this Light's Revocation talent, you can cast Divine Shield while Forbearance is active. For years now, Paladins have always hated or been afraid to play with other Paladins, both in PvE and PvP, because if your Ret Pally in a Solo Shuffle match is getting blown up, and you put Blessing of Protection on them, and then a shaman purges that Blessing of Protection, and they're still getting blown up. Well, look, they can't hit Divine Shield, and your Rep Pally would die because he's in Forbearance, and he can't hit Divine Shield while he's in Forbearance. Well, now with this talent, they can. They can hit their bubble even if they have Forbearance, which is a miracle. So now we can help each other out the way the light intended without fear of screwing each other. This is an amazingly overdue but very welcome change. Remember, we added a heal to our blessings, and now we're going to add a 15% movement speed increase to our blessings as well, which is really incredible when you consider that they last for 30 seconds. So for that entire duration of that blessing, you're going to have a 15% movement speed increase. Are you ready for some more pony? You better believe you are. Lead the charge. Every time you hop on pony, which remember you're going to be able to do a lot more now, you're going to reduce the movement speed cooldowns of your allies in your party by 3 seconds. Also, you get a permanent 3% move speed on top of all these other move speeds you get. This new talent adds 20 yards to your auras. So getting them out there to 60 yards. Auras kind of suck now, in my opinion, compared to what they used to be. This is kind of helpful, I guess, if you really want to do like a long-range aura mastery, maybe in an epic battleground or something. But for the most part, I think this is kind of lame. Fist of Justice is redesigned. Remember, Fist of Justice is the talent that for each holy power spent, you reduce the cooldown of Hammer of Justice by 2 seconds. Takes 2 talent points too. So you would stun someone and then you'd pop your cooldowns or whatever. And then when I spin this, you'll watch right here, it takes 2 seconds off per holy power spent. So you really could cycle through Hammer of Justice pretty quickly. Now, instead of getting that 2-second reduction per holy power spent, it's just a flat 15-second reduction. And I think they made it just a 1-point node. Redesign of Sanctified Wrath. You'll get the effect of Sanctified Wrath for the specialization. So for Holy, it's a 50% reduction on Holy Shock for 25 seconds. Plus, now on top of that, you're going to get an increase in the duration of Avenging Wrath. Consecrated Ground is now a class tree talent. So this moves from being a talent in the Protection and Retribution specialization trees to now being in the Paladin tree. This is the ability where your Consecrate is made bigger and it causes a slow. So now Holy Paladins will be able to pick up this Consecrated Ground ability, and I imagine we probably will. Auras of the Resolute now grabs Crusader Aura, so they're kind of combining all of the extra auras into one talent. I haven't leveled a Paladin since I leveled this one, but now you can get the Seasoned Warhorse talent at level 40. I don't know what the impact is there. 10% increased judgment damage, 1 second off the cooldown. Hammer of Justice base down to 45 seconds. So it won't be 60 seconds, it'll be 45. And then if you get this new Fist of Justice talent, it'll knock Hammer of Justice down to a 30-second cooldown. When you think about a 30-second Hammer of Justice on top of the removal of the Repentance cooldown, you're talking about being able to set up some nice CC as a Paladin pretty consistently now. Avenging Wrath now increases critical strike by default. This is outstanding for Holy Pallies. This used to be a talent. Now it's just going to be baked in. Here's another auto cast. Unbound Freedom is an ability that Rets and Prots, I think Prots get it. I think Rets get it for sure. But basically, it makes it so that when you put Freedom on someone else, you receive the buff. The problem was that at times you'd get panicked or whatever, and you'd just throw it on yourself, and you wouldn't put it on someone. Now, if you accidentally put it on yourself and you have this talent, it will automatically target your ally and put it on them, and then you'll both receive it. So it just makes sure that you're getting the most out of this talent every time you use it. And it's baked into the talent. I mean, so you're going to get the 30% movement speed increase, immune to movement impairing effects, and it's automatically going to target another player. Of course, if you want it to be on a specific player, you'll have to target them. But now, even if you cast it, someone's going to get the benefit. Lightforge Blessing, they just really keep trying to get this talent to work. It's over here in the Paladin tree, and what it is that every time you cast Shield of the Righteous, you get a little heal for 1% of maximum health and up to 2 nearby allies. I mean, the reality is, when you're using your Shield of the Righteous, right, you're hitting that and you're putting out the AoE damage. You're usually hitting Shield of the Righteous because everyone's health is fine, or they're not taking a lot of damage. Adding a little healing to it is really not needed, because if you're gonna heal, you're just gonna heal. I've never seen this ability be picked by a lot of people. I mean, every once in a while you'll see one or two high-level paladins pick it for Mythic Plus, but for the most part, there's just way better places for your talents to go. Of Dusk and Dawn change, where Blessing of Dawn, I think stays, or I guess it's changed. I think it is already 10%. It's 10% for Protection of Rep, but it gets knocked down to 5% for Holy Paladin. So a 5% nerf there on Blessing of Dawn for Holy Paladins, because I think it's currently 10%. And here we have some talents that were 2 points reduced down to 1, and some that were 1 point increased up to 2. And then all of these talents have been removed. The big one in the removal is right here. Strength of Conviction is being removed. These two talents were very consistently taken. And what it was is when you had your Consecrate down, you would gain 10% additional damage and healing. And so that talent node is being removed. And to compensate, they're increasing Word of Glory healing by 5% and Shield of the Righteous damage just by 10%. And they're doing the same thing for Protection or Retribution, because Strength of Conviction is being removed. And so there's an explanation of all the changes coming into Paladin, and specifically Holy Paladin. And overall, I just have to say bravo. Bravo freaking oh, Blizzard. These are most welcome changes, especially in PvP. Outstanding. I'm very excited to play these with these updated abilities, and it just the way that they did this is really impressive to me, because we took abilities we already had and we baked extra goodies into them. So you didn't increase your blood bloat. You took down a lot of talents that were unfun and just kind of meh, and you made the talents that we already have and the abilities we already had better. Out freaking standing work. I'm very excited about that. On top of course, the Judgment set getting updated. So we're going to play better. We're going to look awesome, as always. And there's just a lot of great stuff coming, especially for the greatest of these, the Paladins. So a lot to be excited about, family. And so that's just all the class changes that are coming with the update. But then with this 20th anniversary, you're also getting a new currency where I guess you're going to be able to collect a lot of other T-Mogs and items and mounts, I'm sure. We already talked about how awesome we're going to look in the new P2 sets. Time walking through classic dungeons, and we all love to hit a little Van Cleef from time to time. I don't do a lot of leveling new classes, so I don't get to go back hardly ever, and I'm really excited to be able to play some of those old dungeons, get some gear, get some T-Mogs. There's just a ton of other stuff that you can look at. I don't want to make this video any longer, except for I do want to point out here, PvP Korak's Revenge. This is old school Alterac Valley. You're going to see me in there all day, all night, because I love me some old school AV, when it wasn't just two groups running past each other. Back when you had to grind it out and the Field of Strife meant something. These are just amazing additions to the game. You throw on all the great Holy Pally changes on top of this, and then you bring back old AV at the same time. Oh my God, I'm going to be in a clinic by the time this is over, because this is about to get real unhealthy real fast. In closing, we must remember that the light does not shine on all equally. And while the Paladins have been greatly blessed, deservedly so, that some other classes have been greatly harmed. If you're new to this channel, you may not know that I absolutely despise shamans, because in the World of Warcraft I came up on, Paladins were the Alliance hero class and shamans were the Horde hero class. And so the shamans to me are a very natural nemesis. But even amongst enemies and foes, there can be honor. And I want to be crystal clear that no one, not even dirty horde-loving shamans, deserve this kind of treatment. I mean, this is cruel and unusual punishment. If you don't know, this is the updated Ascendance models for shaman, where they get the clown. They look like freaky clowns. There's nothing about this that says master of the elements to me. This looks goofy, it looks ridiculous, and for as much as I dislike them, this really isn't a nice thing to do to shamans. I mean, I get that like troll shamans might turn into something like this, but you're telling me that Tauren and Orc, Dwarf, they all turn into this flaming, freaky Ronald McDonald? This is an abomination, and that this got through. Like, people were like, yeah, this is a good idea. Let's show people this is a disaster. And as much as I dislike shamans, I am just so sorry, shaman community. This is abhorrent, and that you waited so long to get new ascendance forms, and this is what they did to you. This is too much. This is too much. I mean, I wish ill upon you, but not, this is too much. I can't abide by this. This is too far, okay? There has to be honor even amongst enemies. We from the Paladin community are sending you our thoughts and prayers, because this is a sad time. If this goes live, this is really sad. I will laugh every time I see this, though. I will laugh at you and be like, yeah, this makes you uglier than evokers. Think about that. Shocking. Shocking. This is shocking. We are greatly blessed as always, Oklahoma gang. And there's just a bounty of blessings incoming. I promise you I will get a guide out on how to be the best Holy Pally you can be as soon as Blizzard figures out what the hell they're doing with our class and spec. But as good as these changes are, let's just let them keep cooking. Give them a little slap on the ass. You're doing great, Blizz. Keep it up. Oklahoma out.